Hello, and welcome to the Relationship Anxiety Podcast. I'm your host, Ksenia, a certified relationship anxiety life coach. And today we are going to be talking about healthy boundaries. Boundaries are kind of a buzzword lately. Just like in the past couple of years, people talk about the importance of setting boundaries. And that's true. Boundaries are so important. But the way they've been taught a lot of the time just really isn't useful, it's not helpful, and really isn't what boundaries truly are. So today my goal is to help you understand what boundaries really are and how to set them. So to start, the purpose of a boundary is to keep you safe. I'm going to say that one more time. The purpose of a boundary is to keep you safe, physically, emotionally, socially, mentally, all the ways. It's to keep you safe. And the purpose of a boundary is not to control someone else. A lot of the time, we are taught that we need to set boundaries with people, meaning that we need to control the people around us. We need to tell them what we will or won't stand for, right? I might say, like, don't go through my phone, and that's a boundary. Or you might say, don't come over to my house after 7 o'clock p.m., please. Right? We're kind of taught that those are boundaries, and those aren't boundaries. In fact, those are requests. And we'll get into more of that later. But the difference is the energy behind what's going on, the energy behind the boundary that you're trying to set. So when we say things like, don't come over to my house after 7 o'clock, or please don't go through my phone, those are attempts to control someone else's actions. And the problem with that is, number one, people don't like being controlled. But number two, we don't actually have any control over the outcome. Whether or not our boundary is met is in someone else's hands completely, right? I have no control over whether or not someone else goes through my phone. I have no control over whether or not someone comes over to my house at 7 p.m., right? There's nothing I can do to control that person. The only thing I can control is the way I respond. And that is what a healthy boundary is. It's about, how am I going to respond to someone else's actions? What am I going to do? So, for example, I might say something like, hey, if you go through my phone, I am going to change my password because I just feel really uncomfortable with you going through my phone. Do you see how, in this example, I am telling the person what I am going to do if they do a specific action? This is how I am going to keep myself safe. I am going to change my password if you do this. Or, for example, if you come over to my house after 7 p.m., I'll open the door and I will politely ask you to come back another time. Do you see again how the boundary is how I am going to respond when you do a certain action? This is the difference between a boundary and a request. I can request someone to do something, but my boundary is what I am going to do about it, what I am going to do in response to their actions. In our relationships, we need to set lots of boundaries, right? If you do this, I will respond this way to keep myself safe. If you yell at me, I am going to leave the room. I'm not saying you can never yell at me ever, or don't yell at me. I might want those things, but they're just requests. The way that I am going to keep myself safe is by leaving the room if someone else yells at me. The other thing about boundaries is you don't necessarily need to tell the person what your boundary is. You can, and it can be really helpful, but I'm going to give you another example. Let's say that I am in a social situation, and I'm at a party, and I really, really hate the topic of scary movies in conversation, right? Which is true. I hate scary movies. But instead of telling everyone around me, if you talk about a scary movie, I'm going to leave the conversation, it's okay if I just do that. It's okay if the topic of scary movies comes up and I just politely excuse myself. I don't necessarily need to tell everyone at that party what my boundary is. They'll probably figure it out, right? They'll probably recognize, like, oh, when we started talking about scary movies, she excused herself. Or maybe they won't recognize it and they'll ask you about it later, and then you can tell them about your boundary. Or maybe they won't even care, right? But sometimes when we're in situations, it can feel really uncomfortable to speak our boundary out loud. And I want to give you permission that that's okay. It's okay if you just hold your boundary inside and you just do your boundary and you keep yourself safe without necessarily telling it to anybody else. I also want to just note that sometimes boundaries can feel scary because it might feel like we're risking connection with people. And for someone with an anxious brain, that could feel very scary. It might feel like they will leave us or that they won't love us as much. And I want to speak to that in a way. The truth is that boundaries, even though it feels like they risk connection, they actually drive deeper connection because it's more authentic, it's more genuine, and it especially creates deeper connection with yourself. Boundaries are a beautiful, beautiful way to start to build self-trust. It's a way that we start to tell ourselves that we are safe with ourselves, that we will take care of ourselves. A lot of the time we have anxiety and we feel like we need to control everything around us because we don't feel safe with ourselves. I was talking to one of my clients this week about what to do when you have actual relationship problems, right? When your partner does something that you really actually don't like and it's not just anxiety. And what I told her, like we started talking about how to like love your partner unconditionally and how to be abundant with your love and things like that. And she asked me, she said, that feels so scary. It feels scary to open up to loving this person because I feel like I'm just missing red flags. Like it feels scary to have this abundance of love for them. And what I told her was, it can feel scary, but the reason it doesn't have to feel scary is if we have self-trust. So for example, I am able to love my husband unconditionally and give him the benefit of the doubt and be so generous and abundant in my love for him because I'm really good at boundaries. I'm really good at taking care of myself. And I know that if I'm ever not safe with my husband, that I will take care of myself and I will keep myself safe. This allows me to love my husband better because I know that I've got me. I know that I will be there for me no matter what. And so if you feel like boundaries feel scary because you'll risk losing connection, I believe that boundaries can create deeper connection. We are being so much more genuine and authentic when we're creating boundaries, and that self-trust that we have allows us to love and connect with other people deeper because we know that we will always be safe. I also want to note that having a boundary doesn't always make anxiety go away right away. In fact, after setting a boundary and following through, you might feel a little bit more anxiety at first, and that's okay. Slowly, as you practice setting boundaries in these small ways, the anxiety spikes that you have after you set a boundary and enforce it, they will get lower and lower as your self-trust grows. And so that's okay. I also want to note that it is so important to actually enforce your boundaries. That is just as important as setting them, especially when it comes to building self-trust. And like I said, you can start so small. Start with tiny boundaries and then grow your boundaries. And the last thing that I really want to say in this episode is that the presence of boundaries doesn't mean that you're in the wrong relationship. I think it's really easy for us to say, like, because I have to set boundaries, it means that I'm in the wrong relationship. Healthy relationships don't have to have boundaries. And that is not true. Boundaries are a part of any relationship. And they're especially part of healthy relationships. All healthy relationships have boundaries because both parties in that relationship are keeping themselves safe. And like I said before, it allows them to more fully connect with each other because they're able to do it from a place of safety. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. If you have questions about setting healthy boundaries, I would love, love, love to help you. You can reach out to me at Instagram at Ksenia Claire Coaching, or I'm on Facebook, or you can email me questions that you have. But thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye.